Before going any further in this video, I do want to point out that there were some issues with the AC inverter testing. Those issues were resolved, but I'm going to leave them in this review so that if you have a similar problem with your power station, that'll give you the solution you need to fix the problem. Welcome back, everyone. Today's video is a complete test and review of the Pecron E1500LFP portable power station. Last year I tested Pecron's E2000LFP, and they've kept quite a bit of the major features that I loved while making this a much more compact design. The E1500 weighs in at 40 pounds, and to account for that lowered weight, it does have a smaller lithium iron phosphate battery with a 1,536 watt-hour capacity. And one major upgrade that I want to emphasize is that this power station has a larger AC inverter than the E2000LFP. This one has a 2200 watt continuous AC inverter, while the E2000LFP has only a 2000 watt inverter. So while their other offering has a 25% larger battery, this one has a much more robust AC inverter. Pecron sent me this power station for a complete test and review. They did say that they wanted my honest feedback, and for that reason I am going to leave some of the issues that I found while testing the device in the video. And if you want to start off fresh with your power station, I recommend that before you even plan on using it, you go ahead and discharge it completely and top it off one time just to recalibrate the shunt, which will give you a proper reading on the percentage of battery remaining as you use the power station. So for the rest of this video, I want to keep it concise, and as I talk about the features, I'm going to go ahead and test them. Starting with a maximum capability test of the AC inverter. For this test, I'm going to use various devices that I almost always carry with me camping. The main benefit of testing this portable power station with these devices is I'll know exactly what I can take and what I can run with the power station. But more importantly, if I have a power outage, which kind of these devices can I run and how long can I run them for? To turn on the Pecron E1500, you simply hold the AC button or the DC button. The AC outlet is putting out approximately 120 volts at 60 hertz. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and start with this little Dash mini toaster oven, which is perfect for heating up a small piece of bread or something like that. However, I have upgraded from this toaster oven to a more significant toaster oven that I'll show you guys in a few minutes. Now we're showing that we're pulling about 540 watts just from the toaster oven. I'm going to go ahead and bump it up with the little MyHeat heater. This MyHeat heater usually pulls about 200 watts. So I've spiked up to just under 800 watts with the toaster oven and the little MyHeat heater. With this device, with these two accessories, you can expect to get about a little less than 2 hours of runtime from this portable power station. But what I really want to know is, can I run the heater, can I run the toaster, and can I make a cup of coffee? And so I'm going to go ahead and turn on the coffee maker. Now I don't have a K-cup or a pod in there right now, but I'm going to go ahead and run this as if I am going to make a cup of coffee. Now the coffee pot is brewing, I've spiked up to just under that 2200 watt load capability. At this power draw, it says I can get about 18 minutes of runtime. I'm going to go ahead and let the coffee maker boil the water, and then we'll see, does the Pecron E1500 handle this almost 2200 watt load, and will I drain almost all the battery in the 5 minutes or so that it takes to make this coffee? And there it is, we boiled our cup of coffee. So that's a success for this AC inverter. While the Pecron 1500 did successfully complete the AC inverter maximum load test, I want to point out that I did burn over 20% of its battery capacity. So if you do plan to use this to make breakfast, boil coffee, things like that, you will burn through the battery very quickly. The maximum pull from this coffee maker is just under 1500 watts. So if you plan to only make coffee with this power station, you'll have just under an hour of runtime with the coffee maker. One thing that I like to use almost every time I go camping is this hot plate. So I just want to see if the power station will run this hot plate steady state for at least a few minutes, maybe long enough to boil the water in this container. Well guys, I forgot that this is an induction cooktop, and so this aluminum kettle will not cook with the induction cooktop. So I've got to go get a steel pot real quick, and then I can test this cooktop. So let's get this swapped out and see what we can do. There it goes. Now it's cooking. The cooktop is set on 8, which pulls a maximum load of around 1300 watts. If I had a larger pot on the cooktop, I could hit that 1800 watt load. However, I'm happy with the 1300 watts, and if you look at the little 0.4 hour thing, it estimates that it'll give me about 24 minutes of runtime from the 40% or so of battery capacity. Alright guys, I'm actually a little concerned with the way the AC inverter runs on the Pecron E1500, and the reason is my cooktop was only pulling about 1300 watts. I do still have at least 20% battery capacity remaining, and the AC inverter shut off. The main reason that this concerns me is the AC inverter has shut off at least twice since I've been testing the cooktop today. So this will actually be one of the first times in my reviews that I've had a power station that I don't believe lives up to the expectations based on the marketing. So just so there's no concerns about whether or not this is a fair test of this power station, I'm gonna go ahead and start the test from the beginning. The water is still a little warm, but based on my recent experience, I suspect that this 1300 watt load will only last for 1 or 2 minutes before it shuts down the AC inverter. So let's see what happens. While I'm waiting for this test to complete, please consider subscribing and give this video a thumbs up, mainly so that other people who are considering this portable power station get to see the results of this test. Boom, there it is. I'll go back and I'll put on the screen how long did the 2200 watt AC inverter run for before it actually kicked out or turned off with only a 1300 watt load. For me, this AC inverter result is very surprising because I tested the 2000 watt hour version of it last year and I had zero problems with the runtime or any of the claimed capabilities of the power station. So along the lines of continuing to make sure this thing gets a fair shake is I want to go ahead and top it off. That way I can see if the AC inverter does pull that maximum capability while the battery is topped off. And maybe at some point at the 50% mark or something like that, then it stops pulling those heavy loads. While this power station tops off, I am going to go ahead and test the DC outlets. The main DC outlet that I want to test is this 100 watt USB-C. To test the USB-C, I'm going to use my relatively discharged MacBook Pro, and it should pull at least 100 watts because this MacBook Pro cable is rated for about 140 watt draw. However, this is something that I don't like about this style of display. I am going to have to disconnect the input so that I can see exactly how much power I'm pulling from that 100 watt USB-C outlet. And as you can see, I am pulling around that 100 watts. This is something that when you do buy a cheaper portable power station like this, you do not get the more technologically advanced displays. So now that I'm charging from the wall outlet, I'm getting over that 100 watts. So it shows 1300 watts, but in reality, I'm putting 1400 watts in from the wall and I'm pulling 100 watts from the USB-C. And so even though the AC inverter didn't perform as expected, the USB-C output did give me the results that I want to see in a test like this. So it is possible that the shunt or the battery percentage is not accurate on this device because it's been at 100% on the display for quite a while now, but I'm still bringing in just under 500 watts. And in fact, since I turned off the DC outlet, this input has been decreasing. And so it's possible that although this says 100%, it's really maybe in the 90% range. Most of the time, I do completely discharge these battery stations and recharge them to make sure that the display is as accurate as possible. So now that I'm getting close to completely topping off the device, I do want to try to run that hot plate one more time. All right, so let's go ahead and get the AC inverter turned on. So I've got the camera really close to the power station, and there's quite a bit of idle noise from the AC inverter. But let's go ahead and crank this baby up and see if we can pull that 1300 watts consistently, at least for a few minutes, and then I'll know whether or not either I have a faulty Pecron E1500LFP or the thing just can't handle that long-term load. I do want to point out that at the 1300 watt load, it does say that this thing will run for about an hour. I have been running it for about 45 seconds right now, so it is possible that it will continue to run. And this time I'm not going to just keep the film going, but I'm going to let it run and boil the water, and I'll check it in a few minutes and see if the inverter was able to handle the load. So we're just over 4 minutes. I'm still pulling just under 1300 watts. I want to go ahead and crank it up a little more and see if I can actually cause this thing to shut down. And I just wanted to note the water is starting to boil. So I'm just going to go ahead and plug in my heat gun and try to get this thing as close to that 2200 watts as possible. I triggered the overload and the fan is running full speed right now. And what I want to do is just cut that hot plate on one more time. And I'm just going to let the hot plate cook until the battery depletes completely. And then I'll be confident that the AC inverter actually successfully completed the test. To reset the AC inverter, I'm just going to turn the device off completely and then turn it back on. Now that it's on, I'll go ahead and hit the power and let this thing go. So what I want to do is just let this power station burn through its battery. I don't want to damage my pot or anything, but I really want to know, can this power station handle that power output? We are now getting close to that 50% mark on the battery inside of the Pecron. And the cooktop says that it's been running for about 25 minutes. So that's a pretty solid time, and that does line up with my just under 1 hour for the 1536 watt hour capacity with a 1200 or 1300 watt load. What I want to see is, as I go below that 50% line, will the battery try to protect itself by lowering the AC inverter's output capability? So when I conducted this test the first time and it was hitting that 10% mark, there might be some internal functionality inside of the device that protects the battery from damaging itself. And so when it has a higher load and the battery percentage is low, it might limit the maximum output to make sure that it doesn't cause any extra damage to the battery. These batteries are usually rated to sustain up to 3,500 complete cycles. That means from 100% to 0% and back up. But by doing these high power draw tests, it is possible that we reduce the overall battery life. However, I don't normally run these tests like this, except for the first few times that I have the power stations. Let me talk about some of the other features while we allow the induction runtime test to continue. This thing has a complete array of USB-C and USB-A outlets. The 100 watt USB-C outlet I just tested, and I was able to achieve that full 100 watts of power draw. In addition to that, there is one 18 watt USB-C. I would like to see this bumped up to a 60 watt USB-C in future iterations, but 18 watts is sufficient to power or charge most cell phones, even though most newer cell phones will actually accept a larger charge than 18 watts. In addition to that, there are these 4 18 watt USB-A outlets. Moving over to the 12 volt panel, there is one 5521 barrel output rated at 5 amps, one standard car outlet rated at 10 amps, and then finally we have this massive XT60 output rated at up to 30 amps. So if you do use accessories with an XT60 output, this is a perfect outlet to make sure that you get your maximum capability of almost 360 watts. We're at 27% right now, and I'm gonna go ahead and call that satisfactory, because I don't want to cause any unnecessary damage to the power station, but it ran for over 40 minutes after doing that recharge. And I really hate to spend so much time messing with the AC inverter, but for power station reviews like this, especially since this is such an excellent deal when you compare the price to the features, I wanted to make sure that I got every kink worked out or tested every possible kink in the power station. And that AC inverter is as powerful as they claim. So let's get back to where we started the video, and I'll go over some final thoughts that I have on the Pecron E1500LFP. But before we talk about my final thoughts, I do want to share all the components that come with the power station. Starting with, so the only thing I could really imagine that this would be used for is possibly topping off a battery that is discharged on a vehicle, essentially making this power station a sort of instant battery jump starter kit. So glad to have those in the package. In addition to that, we do have our standard 12 volt input. This input goes into the device to top it off. However, if you do plan to use this, it'll take you essentially 20 hours to top off the power station. The next thing that we have is our wall charging cable. I was using another cable while recharging the device, so this one's still brand new. And finally, there are two adapters that can be used to charge the power station from solar panels. Unfortunately, I don't have the sun for solar panels today, but this is an MC4 input, and this is one Anderson power pole input. So this brings me to one minor concern that I had with both the previous Pecron 2000 and this Pecron E1500, and that is the range for the solar panel or DC input. And the reason I say that is one of these inputs is for your 32 to 95 volt range, which is not a standard solar panel array if you're dealing with 12 volt items. And then the other one is 12 to 18 volts. This is where you would plug in your normal 12 volt solar panel, assuming that it doesn't go over 18 volts open circuit. And so you just have to be careful with which arrays you do want to use. However, you are able to use that 700 watt solar panel input with a wide range of voltage, meaning you can plug several 100 watt solar panels in series, or maybe 2 or 3 200 watt solar panels in series to achieve the correct voltage and get a maximum or maximize that amount of input. So who do I think that this power station is truly for? Well, if you're someone who doesn't have to have the name brand devices and you are looking for a good deal, then this is honestly a very good deal for the price. The current price is around $800, and with that 1536 watt hour battery, you're looking at just around 50 cents per watt hour. So that is an amazing deal. Most other power stations come in at around 80 cents to $1 per watt hour, but for that good deal, you do lose a little bit of functionality. The display does not have a precise input and output reading. It only gives you the total difference between what you're putting out and what you're putting in. So if you can live with that, then it's really not a bad device. So possibly making this an even better option for someone with a strict budget is the fact that you can get this as your head unit and then expand with some of those expansion batteries, further increasing your off-grid capability. I did have a few problems with the AC inverter testing. I wanted to leave those problems in the video so you could see the process that I go through with my reviews. And if you run into that problem with this device, there's also a solution in there for how you can fix that problem. So if you want to find out more about this power station, check out the links in the video description, and I'll see you on my next adventure.